Hello everyone, my name is Barbara and I would like to welcome you all to our latest Novedge webinar episode. In this week's episode, MODO for product design and design visualization. MODO has become an application capable of many things. Its underlying architecture allows its tools to be used in almost unlimited number of ways. If you work in the fields of product design or design visualization and you're curious about MODO, you are in the right place. This Novedge webinar is definitely for you. Meet our presenter. Andy Brown is the MODO training manager and also a creative specialist at the Foundry. He has been involved in the development of MODO for many years, producing online training materials and delivering on-site training to a variety of design clients. Andy is also a prolific artist, producing concept art, product visualization, and animation for a variety of clients. Before we get going, here's an overview of what we do at Novedge. Novedge is one of the largest online design software stores. We offer a huge assortment of software solutions that cater to virtually every designer's need. Put us to the test and come visit our webpage at novedge.com. And for more daily software news and limited time promotions, keep visiting the Novedge blog and follow us on Facebook, Google+, and Twitter. Coming up next week, discover Vectorworks 2015. Vectorworks Architect 2015 has just been released. This version of Vectorworks has some very powerful and capable techniques. In this webinar, we will focus on a few of these and cover them in detail. Last but not least, today's presentation is free and is being recorded live. If you want to rewatch this or any other webinar episode, you can find it on our YouTube and Vimeo channel. Just search for Novedge. And now I'm ready to pass the baton to Andy. Finally, you may say. And Andy, I will make you the presenter. Okay. Here you go. The screen is all yours. Let's see. There you are. Okay, working? I will see you in about 45 minutes.
Okay.
Great. Bye.
Okay. Okay, hello everyone. Thanks a lot for your time this evening or this morning or wherever you are in the world. Before I actually start showing you anything, I just want to give you a little bit of background on myself and MODO. So I've been involved with the Foundry for about the last 2 years and then with Luxology for many years before that. But right back in the early days, since version 2 really is when I first came on board. And one of the interesting things about MODO back then is MODO was the only thing that we really sold, and initially we noticed that more and more designers were picking it up. It was never something that we actively kind of targeted. It kind of happened naturally. So that, we then started to kind of design more design-focused material. For example, the training shoe tutorial and the iPod tutorial that I produced. And MODO has been embraced by the design community really ever since the beginning. But what's really interesting about the last couple of years with the Foundry is we've had a lot more investment in MODO itself and also software kind of around MODO. So what we've got now is a kind of small ecosystem of different pieces of software around MODO that help you to fit MODO into your design pipeline. And that's something we never really had previously. So what I want to do in this presentation is really take you through what that ecosystem is. So it's not just MODO, it's all of these elements that fit together to make MODO a really useful tool. And we'll look at different ways in which we can use MODO within that. So hopefully you can see MODO on my screen. So the first, or one of the most important things if you're going to be working with MODO in design is you've got to be able to move data around very easily. So there's a really brilliant plugin for MODO called the Power Translator plugin. It used to be called the CAD Loader, but it's just had a new version. This allows you to load step, IGES, and parasolid files. So you can bring in like a vast range of CAD files directly into MODO, and you can use those for different things. You can use them for just to render, for visualization, Or if you're working more in the field of product design, you could use them as a basis to then build different designs, or you could use them as hard points for a design. So in this case, I'm going to load this Parasolid file, and I'm just going to load it in as a CAD item. And the reason I like doing that is when you load something as a CAD item, it doesn't actually tessellate anything when you load the file. It just, if I just select some of these items here, you can see that we're actually seeing the surface data. So what the CAD loader is actually doing is referencing back to the CAD file. So over here in properties, you can see it's acting like a proxy. Now that can sit in your scene as reference. You can also render it and texture it on a kind of per item basis if you want to. But for product design or kind of prototyping new types of objects, it's really useful to load CAD data to act as hard points. So for example, with this knife I might want to design a new handle using the original blade as a base. So what I could do is I go to a new item here, create a cube, and we might want to start beveling these polygons. Now one of the great things about MODO, and the thing that really got me into it initially, is all of the modeling tools. The modeling tools are second to none in my opinion. Just quickly. Okay, just beveling out a little shape here. We'll just scale that in at the end. Okay. I just subdivide that with the D key and then hit the Tab key to create the subdivision surface. So MODO at its heart has always been a fantastic subdivision surface modeler. And subdivision surfaces allow you to create very organic shapes very, very easily. It allows you to play around with those shapes very easily using fall-offs and a variety of editing tools. So it's a very different way of working than working with NURBS. So you're not starting with a curve and then building from that. You're starting with volumes and then you're pushing and pulling those volumes around. So for example, with this shape, if I hit the T key for a tool called Element Move, I can right-click and drag out an influence area, and I can easily kind of manipulate this object into the shape that I wanted. I might want to use a fall-off. So if I go to the menu at the top here and run, say, a cylinder fall-off, drag that out across the object, and then I can scale the object a little bit using that to modulate that effect. Another great thing about subdivision surfaces is we can weight edges. So if I hit Shift-Tab and select some edges, I can also use a fall-off, so let's drag that out across there. So I hit Shift-W for the weight tool. I can then click in the viewport and apply weight to that edge to kind of add crease lines. So that's another really useful tool if you're doing any kind of prototyping for hard surface objects. We can also got some great editing tools in here. So let's just level that out a little bit. I'm modeling under pressure here. Okay, that'll do. I just need a shape. Okay. So we've got this kind of very kind of sculptural material that we work with inside of MODO. It's very different to NURBS and solid modeling. We're not building objects parametrically. It's very much about using your eye to judge a volume. So it's a very kind of artistic way of working, very sculptural way of working. But again, with the CAD Loader, we can use elements that we know that are of a certain dimension as reference. Now, when it comes to actually adding detail to an object like this, we could start beveling in these polygons and bridging things. We can also use a really nice tool called Mesh Fusion. Again, Mesh Fusion is another one of these components that sits around MODO, which really adds to the things that you can do. So if I go over to the Model Fusion tab here. So Fusion is a way of doing real-time booleans with subdivision surfaces. So it gives you a kind of live fused representation of any objects in your scene. So say I wanted to punch a few holes through this. So let's load one of these mesh presets. Again, mesh presets incredibly useful for starting points. So I'm just going to scale this down because I want to create a hole at the bottom here. Okay, so I'll just set that at the bottom. So at the moment we have two mesh items in the scene. We've got these two CAD items, which I'll just hide, and then we've got the handle and this Q cylinder one. So to punch that hole through, if I wanted to do that with a subdivision surface, I could just select those polygons and bridge through, but as you can see, it's a bit rough and ready. I'd have to do a lot more work to create a nice hole through that object, and it would never be as nice as a true Boolean. So what I can do here is just select those two items, come up to New Fusion, and choose Subtract First from Selected Others, and now I've got a hole running through that object. And what's nice about that is it's completely live. So I can scale this object, I can move it around, and the hole will move around as well. So I don't need to do any kind of retopology work, don't have to do any polygon editing. I can just decide exactly where I want that hole to be. Another example is if, say, I wanted to put some grips on the side here, so I'll bring in another item. Let's rotate that around. Place that at the top. And again, we can then add that to Fusion just by dragging and dropping onto the object. I want to make that a subtraction. So there we have a little grip, and we can duplicate these items within here. So I'm just going to copy and paste that object and move it down. Now what I want to do here is scale all these individually, so what I can use as an action center here. So I'll just go to a local action center and scale them all down at the same time, and they'll scale locally. And we can kind of push those into position. Now what's also nice about Mesh Fusion is you can adjust the bevel at each of these intersections. So if I go to item mode and just click on the edge here, I can make that a much smoother kind of blend. And so on and so forth. You know, you can do these are the beauty of Mesh Fusion is it's all editable all of the time. You're just editing the objects that are feeding the fusion, and you've got this item that's created. Now, if you're doing a lot of design work, and you're doing a lot of prototyping work, you might want to get this out and print it. So Mesh Fusion allows you to do that really easily. So if you come down into Properties, you can change it to Airtight Final, and then you can convert that to a mesh. And then you have a polygon object which you can save and print and hold in your hand. But the great thing is it hasn't deleted anything. All of the objects that we use to create that item are already still there. Now, we've looked at how to get the object into MODO. We've created something, we've edited it, we've used Fusion. Now you might want to use Mesh Fusion to create all these little details. One really important thing when it comes to design work is you need to be able to get this data out. If you can't get the data out of MODO in a usable format, then it's just useless. It's just pretty pictures. Now again, another component in this ecosystem that we have is this plugin called the Power Subd to NURBS exporter. Now, instead of doing all of this work in Mesh Fusion, I might want to do that in a CAD application. So what I can do is select that initial object. I'll just put that in a new scene. So what the Power Subd to NURBS exporter does, it actually takes the subdivision surface that you've created, a nice smooth organic form, which this isn't. Just a little bit. Let me just smooth this off a little bit. There we go. Okay, it takes a nice smooth organic form, and then it will convert it to a solid, which you can then edit in a CAD application like Rhino or SolidWorks or whatever you use. So what I'm going to do here is I'll export this as a step file. So you can save it as either a step, sat, or IGES. Now let's call this handle and I'll save that. And then you can go into another application like Rhino. Let's find my knife handle. There we go. And there we have it inside of Rhino. And as you can see, it's a solid object. And we can start punching holes in. I'll just put it in there. There we go. So it's a nice editable surface inside of your CAD application. So you can use MODO to create these nice smooth organic forms, something MODO is really good at doing, and something that CAD applications aren't particularly good at doing quickly, and then take them into the CAD application and then use the CAD application to do the things that CAD applications are really good at doing quickly. So that kind of completes the loop of bringing stuff into MODO, doing stuff, and then getting it out again. Okay, so let's get back to MODO, because what I've created here is a really simple object. I mean, it's just a blob, but a lot of designs actually start with a very simple shape like that. But you can push MODO as far as you want to take it. So, for example, I've got a more complicated model here. So I have a race car. So you can see you can really push subdivision surface modeling as far as you want to take it, and that's one of the things that's really great about modeling in MODO. Is there's so many different ways of approaching it. You can come at it from so many different angles, and kind of come out of it at any point you want. Now, one of the kind of a criticism of MODO sometimes coming from designers is that MODO doesn't actually have a history when you're modeling. It has an undo stack, but it doesn't have a kind of construction history which you can go back and edit. And some people say that that's a good thing inside of MODO, because it does actually make the process of modeling a lot quicker. And I don't think it's that necessary with polygon modeling anyway. But in some cases, particularly again with when you're prototyping an object or designing an object where you've got lots of hard points that you need to hit, it's very useful to have some parametric values sitting underneath the model. Now, what you can do in MODO is actually use rigging to help you to achieve that. So I've got a scene that I'd like to show you. This is something I created for a automotive company that I went to train last year. Okay. So when car companies come to design or create a new design, they often kind of base it on the car the year before, or the chassis of the car the year before, and they have all of the dimensions for that chassis as starting points for the new design. So they're just kind of putting a new skin on it, essentially. So what I've done is used MODO's rigging tools to create a system for dimensioning that object and building in as many hard points as you want. So if I just click on this circle here, it gives you all of these values that you're able to input. So if I click and drag on this head-up display, I can set a front axle point, I can define a wheelbase, a wheel arch diameter, a width to the car that I want to model, a wheel width, a wheel diameter, a height to the object, and also a length to the object. I can offset that if I want to. I can add a reference image into this rig if I want to. So what it's giving me is a kind of a volume in space within which to model, with elements that I have to hit. But the great thing is that at any time, I can create a wonderful design, and my boss can come back and say, "That's a great design, but I don't believe that it's on package. I don't believe it's exactly right to the dimensions that you were given." So you can just click on that locator, and up come the dimensions, and you can prove it. So that's again, and this is very simple rigging inside of MODO. Nothing massively complicated. But the great thing is, because MODO's rigging system is so open and based on a kind of like a visual effects approach to rigging, you really can do pretty much anything. So to kind of push this a little bit further, within this package, I've also got what's called a canvas. So if I make that visible, so within here is an actual, simple, you could use as a starting point for your design. And this is all hooked into this rig with deformers. So as I change any of these values, for example, the wheel arch diameter, you can see everything is kind of updating. How much should I change? Height. There we go. You see it. Okay, it's a way of kind of building some parametric values into a model initially. Particularly for like early stage design. It's never going to be as deep as a program that has a kind of a true construction history, but it's a way of building it in, but then still retaining all everything that's good about MODO as well. Now, this kind of rough shape for this car is actually a really nice starting point in MODO, because before I said about how there's so many different ways of approaching modeling inside of MODO. And one of the things that's kind of resonated a lot with designers that I've been meeting is this ability to sketch on a 3D object. And coming from the visual effects world, being able to 3D paint is is old hat really. It's been around for years. But when you put it into the context of kind of like early stage design, taking a 2D sketch into 3D really early on, it's actually a really powerful tool. So I've got a couple of examples here. So if I open up this scene, okay, again I've got a simple car shape here. Now I notice it's a strange orientation. Now this was actually modeled Z up, and again this is another kind of important thing to remember inside of MODO, because by default MODO is a Y up world, whereas a lot of the design industry is a Z up world. Now one of the great things about MODO is you can work at any orientation. You just have to define it in preferences. So if I go to the preferences panel and to units, under coordinate system I can either have an X, Y or a Z up axis. So in this case I want it to be Z, so I'll just click on that. And I can just reorientate my scene and everything will work. I think the only thing that doesn't work is a few presets which have been developed at a different axis, but we can't really control that. But all of the whole tool system will now work in this orientation. Okay, so I've got my rough volume, and again, this interesting point about this model is it's very simple, and it's actually made up of different items. They're not connected, and that's at this kind of point in the modeling process. They don't necessarily have to be connected, and actually it makes sense not to connect them because it means you can still play around with them. So for example, I might want to select this roof and kind of move it around, to change on scale it to try and change the look and feel of this car. There's no real reason at this point for me to spend time actually joining these two things together. Now, this particular kind of canvas that I want to work on, this has been UV'd, so the whole thing has been flattened out so I can apply a 2D image map to it. So to paint on it, I can just go to the shader tree here. And actually, let's go over to the paint tab. It might be easier to do it over there. Okay. Right, so I go on to utilities. We have to create a blank color texture. And this is just creating a regular bitmap file. And we need to save that to disk after choosing a resolution. So when you create an image map, it's saved separately from the MODO scene file. So with that in there as a layer to paint on, we can go to our painting tools. Again, kind of a common tools that you'd find in any painting application. Let's have a black ink, and we'll turn symmetry on as well, so we can be painting in symmetry. So, I mean, I know a few car designers, and they spend a lot of time doing little thumbnail scribbly sketches really early on, to kind of play around with different ideas. And just whenever I show, this kind of thing to these guys, it kind of freaks them out a little bit because they had no idea that this was possible. And it kind of makes sense for them to do it this way, because when they're creating a design in 2D, they're kind of making assumptions about how it's going to work in 3D. It might look good as a little thumbnail sketch, but is it actually going to work? What's actually happening around the back? When they actually approach sketching like this, and they put a line down in 3D, they've actually got to make a conscious decision about exactly what's happening, with that line. Where is it going, and how is it meeting? And just having that information and that feel, no matter how rough it is incredibly useful to them. So you don't have to use MODO just as a polygon modeling tool or a rendering tool. It can be purely a sketching tool as well. Now, another thing that's really nice is being able to project your drawings, your 2D sketches directly onto a 3D model as a starting point. Because often designers will have some really nice drawings that they want to use. And MODO has a great tool for doing this, and it's called Image Ink. So if I just load that in, so in here I've got this image of a concept car. And now I've modeled this kind of rough volume based on that side view from that design. So if I go to my side view and click in the 3D viewport, that image loads into the view, and then I can position this volume against that sketch. And I can right click and start painting, and that'll just kind of stamp that sketch directly onto the volume. Now, when I've seen designers do this, you can see their faces light up, because all of a sudden, the sketch that they'd spent all that time doing in 2D, suddenly it takes on a completely different life and feel. It's just telling them so many different things now. And then they can use this as a kind of starting point. So we can go in, and if I hold down Control, I can sample colors. And we could start, making more sense of this. And often, these guys have got really good Photoshop skills. And as soon as they get to grips with MODO's painting tools, which are, very, very similar to Photoshop, they're within minutes, they're kind of flying on these objects and creating amazing, amazing designs in 3D. And that, to just actually to sit and watch these guys who are really, really talented sit and create things like this, it really is one of the best things I've ever done, to be honest, in my job. Another brilliant thing about this whole process, and one of the brilliant things about MODO in general, I think, is is the integration of MODO as a whole, as an application. It's not a set of different applications which have been bolted together. It's one kind of holistic whole, as much as possible. It's, and it's by design. So when you're modeling, you can jump into a bit of sculpting. When you're sculpting, you can go in to do a little bit of painting, jump back to modeling, and then back to rendering. So it's all kind of, it treats the business of 3D as one holistic whole as much as possible. And this is again a good example. I've roughed out a volume here with the modeling tools. I've gone in and painted it. Then I can jump over to the render tab, and now I can see my design rendered as well with some nice lighting. It's not photoreal or anything, but it's it's just giving me more information than it would have done just as a 2D sketch on a piece of paper. Okay, so I think that's just interesting, just showing how there's different ways of approaching making an object inside a MODO. MODO can give you information in lots of different ways, and you can take it as far as you want. Okay, so the last thing I want to look at is how you can use MODO to kind of round trip 2D information as well. So I've got a little scene here, and I'm on Z up, so I have to change that. Let's go to Y up. Okay. So if I go to the render tab, just reduce the size of my preview window, speed it up a little bit. Okay. So in this scene, I've got these three football boots, or soccer boots. I'm a huge Sunderland fan, by the way. If you don't know who Sunderland are, you should Google them. Best football team in the world. There's something that we say about Sunderland is never underestimate their power to disappoint, because they don't win anything, but I don't care. Okay, so here's my football boot. I've set it all up now. In terms of general kind of visualization of colors and materials, MODO's preview renderer is just an unbelievable tool, embedded directly in the application, available whenever you want it. It'll show any change that gets made to the scene at any point in time, and in almost real time. Obviously, depending on how heavy the scene is. So it will show any lighting change, any material change, any modeling change even. And just the process of using presets in MODO is a process that a lot of designers are used to in other applications. So for example, here let's choose an interesting color material here. So we've got a leather. So you can just get these presets and just drag and drop them into the preview window. The various different materials will pre-highlight, so I can just drop that onto the tongue, and then that will update. Now, a lot of these presets here are actually part of this PAD preset kit, which is like an automotive preset kit, which has been around for a long time actually, but it's really, really good. MODO also comes with a wide range of presets. Probably go to not only material presets, but also mesh presets and environments that you can just double click and load into the scene. You've also got things like metals, kind of a wide range of presets. But when I've talked to a lot of designers, I've always shown them the Foundry user community, because this, to be honest, this is probably one of the best things about MODO. Always has been and always will be. Just having this kind of resource of users behind the application has always been one of the jewels in the whole MODO adventure. And in this website, we have this share area where we can download scripts and materials, environments, meshes, an enormous range of content which you can just download for free. All you've got to do is sign up with the account. You can have access to them, and they're really good as kind of starting points for materials that you might want to use. But again, incredibly generous community, and you know, this kind of thing is kind of common in the VFX world, not so common in the design world. I mean, it is there, but not quite as on the scale that it is here. So it's always, if you get a chance to use MODO, always check out the share site and have a look at all the things that people have are giving away for free. It's quite astonishing, really. Okay, so we'll get back to MODO here. So we can use, you know, MODO. We can build materials up from scratch. We can use presets by dragging and dropping on into the preview window. One of the things I love about the preview window is how you can just select materials. So if I want to have a look at this material that I used for the tongue, I can just click on it in preview and it'll find that material in the shader tree. And you can see how the shader tree, if you've never used this before, you can see how it's organized. So it reads very much like a Photoshop file. So you're kind of starting at the bottom and kind of like layering on top. Like you'd start with a background layer in Photoshop and then start layering on top and then masking and so on and so forth. And each of these layers, you know, has a blending mode and also an opacity. So it's the same kind of paradigms, the same kind of way of thinking. And again, I think that's a reason why a lot of designers kind of took to MODO initially, because, you know, it's speaking the same kind of language that they're used to for coming from a 2D world. Now, for me, probably one of the most important things that's happened to MODO recently is the release of Colorway, which is kind of the first application that the Foundry have made, which is 100% kind of focused on design. I mean, it has many uses in VFX and kind of look development and that kind of thing, but it's targeted mainly at the design market. And what's so great about it is it allows somebody who's not particularly 3D savvy, or somebody who's maybe hasn't got the time to learn 3D, to get involved in the 3D process and make decisions about an object. So I'll just take you through the process of how you use Colorway. So let me just remove that leather material. Okay. So in this scene, I've just got all the materials named, but I'm starting off with kind of just a neutral grey. And then what I do is I come up to the Colorway kit here, and then I choose the materials that I want to be able to edit in Colorway. So what I'm going to do here is just say tag all materials, and they become highlighted. And then I can render that out. So it renders basically to a 2D comp, which you can then edit in real time inside of Colorway. The great thing about Colorway is just the simplicity of it. It's so easy to pick up. So here's the render that I've already done. Okay. So here's the scene. So if I mouse over this object, you can see all these different parts that I tagged pre-highlighting. If I click on this icon with the circles, I get this what's called a looks palette. So the idea of Colorway is that you're going to create different looks for this design using different colors and also different materials. So if I click on a part, say this main part here, I get a simple color wheel and a single material. So if I want to create a new color, I'll just click on the cross and choose a color, and you can see it updates in real time. So once I've got that, I can click on another one, like that, a different color, and this is where I make a really ugly shoe. Maybe not so ugly. Let's make that bit black in there. Okay, I'll not do the whole thing. So anyway, there's my first look. So what I can do then is come down to the bottom left-hand corner and just click on this cross, and that will save that look inside a Colorway. And then I can carry on, create other looks. So select this material, I create a new one. Let's go purple. maybe a blue on there. And let's create another look, and so on and so forth. Now, if you open the materials panel here, you can also add textures. And those textures can be applied by UV maps. If UV maps were present when you actually rendered the file from MODO, the UVs can be used inside of Colorway. Or if there are no UVs there, then you can just map the textures cubically. So I'm going to select this main one here. We're going to add texture. We can click on one of these materials that you've got loaded, and you can see how that's been mapped onto the object there, and you can tile that, just the tiling. So you can have a bigger leather texture, and you can also rotate it as well. Because at the moment this is just being mapped cubically. So you can carry on creating as many looks as you want. And the great thing is I'm creating all these looks without actually having to bother with 3D at all. So I could be somebody who's just a 2D person. I've got no time to learn 3D, but I can make all of these decisions easily. And you can even use something called Colorway Presenter, where you only provide a range of colors that you want somebody to choose from. Because in Colorway, one of the frightening things about it, so one of the wonderful and frightening things about it is you're presenting somebody with an infinite color wheel, which could be kind of a kiss of death in a lot of situations. So if say you're an interior designer, and you've created this interior render and you've got a red wall, so instead of you showing that to a client and the client saying, oh, can I have that, can I make the wall a little bit redder, you can actually provide them with a palette of colors for that wall, a choice of maybe 5 reds, and then just let them choose. Okay, so it kind of it reduces the number of kind of wasteful iterations that there would be in any kind of a design process. Okay, so I've created these looks for my shoe. Now I can render these out very easily as to bitmap files, and because it's a 2D process, it renders almost instantaneously. Well, instantaneously, it's quick. And then I can use those to use for a presentation. I've got a maybe I've got a meeting at the end of the day, and I've got to put up maybe 20 designs or 20 looks for this new design of shoe. I can just quickly do them in Colorway, render them out, print them, and they're on the wall ready for that meeting. But the most powerful thing about this is how we can push these looks back into MODO. So if I open up, let me close this down, and I'll open this guy up. So this is one I've done where I've got some nicer looking shoes. So what you can do is you go File and Export to 3D, and you can save it as an LKS file. And then if you go back to MODO and to Colorway, you can then say, okay, import looks from Colorway. Select that file. Open it up, and those looks come in as a pass, or a pass group. So if you can see in the top right-hand corner here, I've got a pass group called Colorway Look Shoe Export, and within that, I've got all the passes or look for it in each pass. So I can very quickly swap between them. So all of a sudden, those decisions that were made in 2D have now become, real materials inside of my 3D scene. So I think, so that we've got this kind of a 3D round trip in terms of modeling inside of MODO now, and also this kind of 2D round trip that's happening inside of MODO now. And this kind of ecosystem is something that just wasn't available prior to the 2 years ago, prior to the merger with the Foundry. And I think it kind of shows how the amount of investment that the Foundry are putting into MODO, and how they see, how seriously they take MODO as a design tool, and how they're trying to build a kind of a package to help you to kind of use MODO within a design pipeline. And personally, I'm really excited about where it's all going. I know there's quite a few things in the works. So I think, MODO is just going to continue to kind of grow in this space. Okay, so I think that's my 45 minutes up, and that's my presentation done. So it's kind of a very brief thing. I apologize for some bad modeling early on, but I hope it got the point across.
Well, thank you, Andy. Thank you so much. Before I hit you with the questions, I just want to read you a few comments. Like, okay. Oh, he could have spent 3 hours on Mesh Fusion alone. Really amazing piece of kit. Really enjoying this. And lots of whoa. And also, OMG, I need colorways. Anyway, so everybody's stunned. I'm going to start with the question in the order they appeared. Let me see. I'm going to also assign some to you because they're kind of complex, so you need to read them as well.
Okay.
Is there any issue exporting Mesh Fusion objects to other 3D software?
Well, the only issue is they're very dense objects. So if the application you're sending it to has a problem with dense polygon objects, then there'll be a problem. But as far as saving for printing goes, there's no problem at all. I think that in the current iteration of Mesh Fusion, there's probably not enough control actually on the tessellation part of it, so it becomes quite a dense mesh. You've got some control over how dense that is, but it's relatively dense, and there's a few triangles in there as well. So it's definitely a mesh that's useful, but again, it's how you want to use that is really kind of dependent on how you see it fitting inside your pipeline.
Cool. Next question. Will changing the rigging settings change the model?
In that example, yes. Because that model, that canvas that I had inside that rig was all rigged up with deformers. So if I was changing those values, that basic shape was changing. So if I painted on that volume, because it had been UV'd, as I changed those values in the rig, the actual shape would have changed, and the sketch would move with that object as well. So yes.
I assigned you a question. Can you see it? I will read it, but
I can't see it.
You can't see it? I'm going to try. I assign question 2 and ground. There should be a little question mark appearing on you.
Oh yes, I can. Yes.
Huh?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
Are there plans to add auto retopology feature to MODO?
Okay, so obviously I'm not able to talk about the potential features that might be inside of MODO, but auto retopology is definitely something that's been discussed, because obviously it's for something like Mesh Fusion, it would be very, very useful. But whether it will happen, I'm not able to say. Is that cryptic enough? Okay.
Yeah. Excellent. I'm going to assign you okay, hold on. I'm going to assign you the next question that goes like this. Are there plans for training showing use of rigging tools for design? I really feel it could enhance my workflow, creating rigs that would generate variants of design of rigs that would switch variants of components inside the design would be great. Ideally, also showing use of character rigging used for posing models and adding hard, non-benchable parts to such rig.
Yeah, I am aware of something in the works. A training, not done by me, but there is something in the works.
All right. All right. Somebody else, Mike James, says, love the car demo. I'd be interested in investigating your canvas rig to see if you could adapt it to other, in parentheses, aircraft projects. Very cool.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it could be, a car is just an example. That could be used in any situation at all. I mean, anywhere where you've got define parameters that you need to model within. And just being able to model to scale is, and accurately to scale is a useful thing. But yeah, aircraft would be a fantastic example. But even car interiors or aircraft interiors, where you've got definite parameters about distance between seats and width of aisles and things like that. Those are things that can't change, and you have to design within those. So if you can get a rig that kind of sets all those in place, is really going to help you.
Okay. Can CAD files from, say, Rhino be brought into Colorway?
As inside of Colorway.
Yes.
Well, Colorway is a 2D application, so it will only read DCI files, which are it's like a 2D format. It's actually a deep image format. That's the technical term. And there's only two applications at the moment that are able to generate those, and that's MODO and Cinema. They have to have a kit for either MODO or Cinema. So the only way to get a Rhino file into Colorway would be to first either bring it into Cinema or MODO, and then render out into Colorway.
Okay.
So you'd have to go through that 3D,
okay.
That 3D process.
Makes sense. So here everybody's really, asking a lot of questions. But this one is, I know probably you won't have time for this, but how would you attach rig a non-deformable hard surface object to a more soft body organic one in a way that such object would adjust its position while the soft body gets the form? They wanted to have, a demo of this. I don't know. Maybe that's a whole nother webinar, probably.
A non-deformable hard surface object to a more soft body object. Not quite sure of the. I've actually got something similar to that. Have you got 2 minutes for me to?
I think so. Yeah, let's go. Okay. Let's go for it.
This may or may not answer your question. It won't take 2 minutes.
Okay. Our attendee will be super stoked.
So, okay, where's my? Okay, here we go. So I think this is what you meant, but this is a simple object of a spoon, something that's very easy to make with subdivision surfaces. You can really, it's just two objects and just bridge together and a little bit of editing. Kind of the problem comes in this situation is if you've got you want to bend this spoon in some way, but if you bend the spoon in a kind of in a modeling context, because MODO hasn't got a construction history, it's kind of a one-way street. So if you were to bend it in the modeling context, you'd either have to kind of duplicate this object to save a version of it, and then start deforming another one. So that can start to get a little bit complicated to organize. So what I've got here is this is a simple example, but just a really simple bend deformer in an assembly. So an assembly is like a black box, like a little rig packaged up into a file, which you can just drag and drop into any scene. So this is an example of a bend deformer that I can use. I call it my Uri Geller preset. So I can bend spoons. So if I just double click on this preset, it comes in. It's got a simple piece of geometry with a few locators. Now all I need to do to get that, to use that to bend my spoon, is I'll just bring the deformer into the schematic here, and also the mesh. So what I need to do is disconnect that default mesh, and then bring in the spoon. I go to setup mode. I can just hook that spoon up to the deformer. Simple as that. And then I just need to position these points, which are going to be the points at which the spoon is going to bend. And I can position them anywhere I want to on the spoon. So I've got control over how the whole object is going to get deformed. So now I can do my Uri Geller thing. So I can bend my spoon. And what's interesting is each of those locators, because it's an item, it has parametric it has values associated with it, so it's got a position in space which is readable and changeable, editable. So it's a non-destructive kind of process of deforming this object. Now, what's interesting in MODO is you can view the object in both a rigged and also a modeling context at the same time. So if I split my viewport just by dragging on that little circle in the top left-hand corner, I hit O to bring up viewport properties. Just for that viewport, I can disable deformers. So now I'm seeing the model in two different contexts. I'm seeing it in its undeformed state and its deformed state as well. So I can carry on making modeling changes in this kind of neutral pose, but then see what it's going to look like in different deformed states. And that process is non-destructive. So you could kind of apply this kind of principle, to many different objects or different scenarios where you're actually modeling, because MODO has a large range of deformers that you can play around with. So I'm not sure whether that answered your question, but it rang bells with me with this demo.
I don't know if it did, but I love the Uri Geller option. I think our attendee meant, for example, hard surface knee pad, added to an organic character. So when you bend the leg, the pad adjusts its position. I think that. But anyway, we enjoyed.
Also, like a wrap deformer.
I think so.
Yeah, well, MODO's got a wrap and a lattice deformer and all those different things.
Oh, great!
So yes, you can do that. Yeah.
Okay. So another question goes like this. Mesh fusions. How would you correct the issues with airtight meshes and rogue polygons for 3D printing?
Okay. All right. It's best to show it.
All right.
So let's quickly create something here. Hopefully this will show it. All right, so I'll probably not be able to recreate it, but you get these, initially when you do a fusion, you'll get these little errors. Yeah, I mean, a lot of that's to do with the fact that it's in a kind of draft, it's in a draft mode for display purposes, just kind of speeds up the whole process. If I change it to a draft final, of course it doesn't have an error now, but to be able to see the wireframe. All right, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll just tell you. So Mesh Fusion is really sensitive to the density of the meshes that are feeding into the fusion. So it kind of uses the subdivision level of those items. And if you select one of the items that's feeding into the fusion and go to user channels, you can see it's got a fusion subdiv setting. Now, if you're finding that you're getting kind of holes and little errors on the surface, it could be a number of things. It could be that these fusion strips that you've curated. It could be that you can see that happening there. You can see that it might be that the strip width is too wide, so they're actually starting to cross. And it only has to be a very slight amount, and it'll, crossing over, and it'll start to crack the surface. So it's good to watch for that. If you're finding that it's not working correctly, what I tend to do is start upping this fusion subdiv level. You can either do that, or you can actually subdivide the object. So just going to hit D to subdivide the object, and that just gives Mesh Fusion more to bite on when it's actually calculating that join. So it's creating the final fusion object is a process of kind of balancing all those different values. I mean, I did something recently at a shoe company where they were doing the soles of the shoes with mesh fusion, and it was it was amazing to watch how it would be, how they could push it. So they had this sole and it has about 20 grip, I don't know what you call them, you know, the grips on the bottom of the shoe. They were all individual meshes fused to this base sole mesh, and then it had holes going through it as well. So it was a really complicated object. And when they started doing it, it wasn't working. You know, the mesh was cracking. So it was just a question of just kind of upping these levels, subdividing some objects, you know, increasing this fusion subdiv level. And as you kind of pushed it, you know, all of a sudden it worked. You know, and the final result was amazing. So you do have to play around with those values. It's not, you know, it won't just you know, work first time when the object becomes more complicated. I hope that answered your question.
Well,
I could talk for hours about mesh fusion because it's brilliant.
I can tell. I don't want you to do overtime, though. I know it's getting late, so I want to assign you one last question.
Okay.
What about MODO working in architectural applications or dealing with lots of multiple parts?
Yeah.
You see, right?
Well, MODO is used for architectural visualization. I wouldn't. It's with the new snapping tools in 801. I think it's got all the tools that you need. The only thing it doesn't have is a DWG importer currently, which I shout about regularly internally. But as far as modeling from plans, all the snapping features that you need are there. The renderer is the renderer is absolutely brilliant for internal and interior work. You can just see on the forums when you look at the architectural work that's done. It's as good as anything else I've seen. If you know, obviously, if you throw a lot of stuff at MODO, then you might get issues. But again, it's all relative. But I would definitely say it could do it, depending on what you actually want to do. That was an awful answer.
No, I mean, you're getting standing ovation from the comment box. I'm telling you, there's clap sounds coming through. Seriously. Yes, there's a few more technical questions, but I would like to let everybody know that this webinar, it was the culmination of a series of blog posts that have been written about MODO on the Novedge blog. And so there's 3 already on a blog, and they will be culminating next week with another post. I don't know, and if you're writing some of them, of all of them, but somebody in your team is.
Yeah,
so,
I'll write another one, I think.
Yeah, exactly. I will suggest everybody to go back to the Novedge blog and check those posts because they're very technical and they might answer some of the questions that you brought up today. And I want to thank Andy so much. Andy is a rock star. There's no other way to define him. And
I wish I could sing.
You have big fans, and everybody has written incredible feedback for this webinar. Hopefully, we are recording it, and hopefully you can spread the word and tell your friends and the friend of your friends. So thank you again so much. I will take back the screen. Sorry to disappoint everybody. I know MODO looks stunning. I hate to go back to my screen, but here we go. Let me know if you see it. Sorry to disappoint you, but I want to thank you all for attending. Thanks from the Novedge team. And please go back to the Novedge blog and check out those blog posts about MODO. They're all lined up, and they will be culminating next week with the final one. And visit our page at novedge.com, checking out MODO 801. You'll see that Novedge is the best way to buy software design software online, bar none. Reminding everybody that our next webinar will be Discover Vectorworks 2015. And if you would like to learn how to make your stories more powerful, how to use stories to control wall components, and how to use the new curtain wall, then you should definitely attend this webinar. To rewatch today's webinar, on the other hand, you can check out the Novedge Vimeo or YouTube channel. There's a lot to choose from on our playlist, and you can watch today's webinar on MODO over and over again. I'm never tired of seeing those cleats. I love them. Thanks again for joining us, and have a great day. Thank you so much, Andy. I'll hope to run another webinar with you soon.
Yeah, thanks, everyone. Thanks a lot for listening.
Thank you. Have a great night, everybody.
Okay. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.